Thank you.
Did you see that look he gave us?
Who? The waiter?
It's out.
What is?
Truth about us all over town.
Come on, Brian.
You and Ben eat here all the time, don't you? And now with one of his best friends?
Yeah, well, given your reputation, I think I should worry a little.
My reputation? Who made this date?
This is not a date.
Does that mean you won't take the candy I've got waiting in the car?
Oh, would you stop?
And I cleaned my apartment for nothing?
Listen to me. If there is a rumor, I'll know where it started.
Beautiful lady asks me out to a fine restaurant, offers to pay, says she has something very important to discuss. What am I supposed to think?
Yeah, well, this is serious. It's about the Bedford Institute.
Oh, great. Business talk.
No, it's personal. I know that Ben has inquired about a job with you, and there are some things I have to know.
Salary?
No. Reputation, trustworthiness.
All right. Where do we start?
Well, how about with the deaths of 3 Bedford Institute clients?
Jeremy Lancelot. He's asked me to marry him, and I've all but told him yes.
Lance's twin brother?
I don't see him that way.
Open your eyes, Mim.
Well, Lance is dead.
Yes, and all the reasons that made him that way. The family upbringing, the insanity are very much alive in Jeremy. What are you thinking of?
He loves me, for one.
And how do you know that?
Well, he saved my life.
Oh, certainly. He was running around the countryside looking for $1 million treasure. He saw it destroyed, so as an afterthought, he saved your life.
That is not true.
Mim, aren't you just the least little suspicious of his motives? I mean, after all this time, he suddenly comes out of nowhere and asks you to marry him?
What do you mean? Where have you been for the past 5 months?
I have been supervising an inferior and sometimes insubordinate museum employee.
Well, he happens to have made me happier than I've ever been in my entire life.
Yes, and you will pay for that happiness for the rest of your life if you don't stop this nonsense. Mim, he was very circumspect when we first met, proper. And then along came this business with the Dar Salaam Bible, and I saw Lance's greed reach out and grab him. He ran around looking for that treasure for his own personal gain. But much more important than that, way ahead of that, he knew my personal worth. And then he found my one weakness and started to exploit it.
Is that what I am? Is that my official title now? Charles Carpenter's one weakness.
Mim, you've given me many opportunities over the years to protect you, and I have not abandoned that particular responsibility. Oh, come on now, let's forget this issue. I'll talk to Jeremy myself. Let's have lunch, because I have some genuinely good news to tell you.
Let's have lunch. No, Daddy, there'll be no lunch. Because there will be no more responsibilities, no more weaknesses. Your opinion doesn't count anymore. Whether or not I marry Jeremy is my choice.
Brian, what happened to those 3 ladies?
Laurie, let me ask you a question. Your, well, what's the word? Worldview says that money doesn't bring happiness, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe that without a relationship with God, you're not going to really find a lasting peace.
And Ben believes in the same thing, too?
Yeah, he does.
Then why is it so perplexing when people who've trusted in wealth to satisfy them, when people with a worldview totally contrary to your own admit their error by ending it all.
What are you getting at?
And I want to tell you something else. All those stories about the Bedford and the suicides made great headlines. And you know why? Because everybody hates the rich. Do you think that those readers really lamented the death of another Kingsley socialite?
Maybe not.
There's nothing quite like the joy of watching someone choke on their own silver spoon. Let's look at the other side of this for a minute. The good that the Bedford does. The dermabrasion patients who can finally face the world without disfiguring scars. Rhinoplastic patients who've heard their last nose joke from behind their back.
Brian, this really isn't necessary. I'm not against plastic surgery.
Oh, I know that. Dear lady, you just don't want to see Ben leave the clinic.
I would just like to see Ben make a career move because of a positive drawing to a new place, not because of a negative reaction to the stress that he's getting at the clinic.
That's a very, very healthy attitude.
Brian, is Ben going to be offered a position at the Bedford?
Would you care for some water?
No, thank you.
I'm fine, thank you.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
So, how's our favorite plastics man?
Brian? Well, I see him occasionally for post-op visits. He's as winsome as ever. You two, lovers?
Friends. We enjoy one another's company. You're skeptical?
Friends, lovers? Both enjoy one another's company. Depends on how they do the enjoying. Well, I am grateful to Brian for recommending you. You know, I've never liked the idea of therapy. Primal screams, remembering your parents' bedroom. But when I visited the Domi seminar, I felt you offered more than psychological symbols.
And you have potential. The profile you filled out was very impressive. You know, I don't see just anyone for these private sessions.
Yes, I know I'm grateful. Now, the people at your seminar, dear, the great unwashed, as it were, they don't put me exactly at ease.
And well, they shouldn't. But they're not here, Mrs. Randolph. They are far away in their holes, their jobs, facing the daily sentence of what they have allowed themselves to become. Common. Abilities, insights, wealth, and potentials, these are given only to a few, carrying with them the responsibilities to grow, learn, and to fulfill. And that is why we're here.
Not long ago, I saw something in you that was so terrifying. It came into such a focus that it just cut me right to my heart. You know why? Because I finally realized that I had a father who didn't want me to grow up. Well, that's sick. That's just sick and ugly because you take pleasure in my weaknesses. Oh, you nod politely when I do something right, but all along you're just waiting for me to fall.
Mim,
No, Daddy, no, don't touch me. When I think of all the lengths that you went to help me with my divorce from Paul, just corralling me in your own house, getting your security from my insecurity. Well, Daddy, I'm here to tell you now that I'm secure in another man's love now, and I've got another father, one who actually takes pleasure in my successes, who whispers encouragement, who thunders applause, and would you listen to me? Now that I'm saved from what I was, his sole purpose is just for me to become like his son. That's what's changed, that's all. And I pray that someday you'll see that. More than that, I pray that someday you will experience that.
Mim, there are other lives at stake here. Think of Eric.
I have. He loves Jeremy. In fact, he has practically accepted him as a stepfather.
I cannot believe that.
Why not? Because he doesn't buy him every new toy that hits the market?
But Eric hasn't had time to know Jeremy.
No, but it's the beginning of a deep friendship.
What about your career? You didn't settle down to a steady job until you got this place. And now you're just going to walk away and leave it?
No, this is a good job, that's true, and Jeremy realizes that, and we're discussing options.
Mim, you're forgetting something. I'm a director of the museum. Jeremy has tendered his resignation. He's going to go to Canada. What are you going to do up there? Shovel snow, chop wood? He's going to a tiny little Canadian town that's very rural and very dull.
Well, we may just stay here. He's, willing to do that if it'll really make me happy.
There's something else, too. You know, people still think of him as Lance. Oh, if I were him, I wouldn't want that constant comparison either. I'd want to go away. But what's that going to do to you? Being thought of as married to a murderer and a thief?
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
I'm not. The stigma of Lance is going to take a long time to go away. But there is one alternative.
What do you mean by that?
It's a long-standing desire I think you still have to go home, to the friends that you once had, to the life that you knew. Now, you talk about your new life, of making corrections of the past. What better place to do that than in your own hometown?
Daddy, what are you talking about?
Well, you know what my good news was going to be to you? I was given Preston's seat on the Carpenter Shipping Line board. I am going back to Lake Forest, and I want to take you and Eric with me. Please.
Jeff said he wanted kids. I couldn't. You know what I mean.
Are you saying he beat you?
I never sounded that alarm.
What alarm?
Wife beater. It's such an invitation for sympathy.
I have no sympathy for you. Your playful romance was souring with age. You were being physically abused. I'm guessing you were receiving no emotional support, and...
He loved me.
Does he still?
I don't think this girl can give him what he wants.
Meaning you can?
I have the patience to see his moods through.
You can please him?
If he'll let me.
Ah, I see. He was carried away with his career in real estate, and he never really gave you a chance. Is that what you think?
No, I never used that as an excuse either. Now, don't stereotype me, Miss Fazan. My life is much too complicated.
Complexity is the fuzzy thinking of a simple man.
Now, excuse me, but did I do something wrong? What are you trying to say?
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm only listening. Did he ask you to lose weight?
Eventually.
What did you weigh when you were married?
110.
And how long before you reached 170?
Where did you get that number?
Tell me.
Well, by the time my youngest sister was married, I guess I was in that area.
And I suppose your husband made some comment when he saw your sister in your wedding dress?
I don't like this. You've been asking around about me.
Sit down, Mrs. Randolph. I'm only basing my conclusions on what I've heard.
I have something more to say.
Please.
The total sum of a woman's life isn't her weight or her appearance. Now, I've managed late in life to start a new career in social services, and I've put the failings of my husband behind me. And I have found self-respect in work that I never thought possible.
Then why go back?
Back where?
Back to Jeff and his new bride to show off the new you.
Well, because that's the only kind of improvement he'll understand.
Maybe not. Why don't you parade a group of those little orphans you babysit through his living room? You know, that could be very touching.
Stop mocking me.
What do you get paid for your job?
I'm there to service those children.
What about self-realization?
Well, they're not exclusive. Service and personal growth.
They're not? What about meeting the needs of a husband who's asked you for years to stay attractive? Where's the correlation? Did you enjoy the beatings?
What?
Were they fitting? With every pound and wrinkle adding to the justification? Were those beatings proper punishment for growing old? And tell me about a career without a salary. And tell me why every other past prime suburban lonely housewife cannot throw her life into volunteer work and call it a new career.
I want you to stop.
You asked me to tell you the truth. Isn't that what you want?
Yes.
Then why are you lying?
I'm not.
If you actually think that nothing stands between you and those 26-year-old Amazons but 30 pounds in plastic surgery, Mrs. Randolph, you're crazy. What do you want to do? Turn heads in shopping centers? Those days are gone. And no medical genius will ever bring them back. No clinic, no tan, no store, no salon, no spa, no pedicure, no wrap, no massage, no vacation, not even a lover. Do you know what you wanted? Do you know what would really bring back all those years? A child. But your husband was tired of trying. What are you going to do when his young wife's womb swells with a child you could never give him?
Mim, before you say no to Lake Forest, there's something you should know about. I think there's a very good possibility that I'm going to be able to buy our old home back.
On Rosebriar?
I talked to the owner today, and he said that he might be willing to sell it to me. Now, frankly, because he knows its sentimental value to me, he's got the upper hand. But regardless of the cost, if you'd go back with me, it would certainly be worth it.
Well, there were good times back when I was young. When everything around me, I was just blind to it. All the ambition and the lying and the beautiful, but still trapped people. But God has given me something in place of that now, Daddy. He has. It's an innocence that's real, a purity that doesn't even have to look the other way to stay intact.
My, we've gotten high-minded all of a sudden.
The only thing I did to get the innocence I have is just ask for it.
I think you're afraid to go home. Afraid that you might lose your faith, and that proves just how real it is.
That's not true. The truth is I don't want to have to live for you anymore. I don't want to applaud your homecoming, and I don't want to count your money. I'm ready to live for another man now, a man who I can give myself to, a man who'll finally give something back to me.
Why are you doing this? This isn't like the seminars. You're supposed to comfort.
Do you know what I do at those seminars? I take those people by the hand, I mollify their fears, I enlarge their supposed strengths. But in real Domi practice, the first step is the admission of failure. And you do admit that you failed, don't you, Mrs. Randolph?
My life's been a string of failures. If I've said anything else, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Randolph?
Are you telling me that I never gave you anything?
No, just listen to
Mim,
what
you meant more to me than anything in my life.
I know. That's it. I've been a thing in your life. I'm sorry. I really don't want to hurt you like this.
Mim, let me tell you something. I've learned here in Kingsley. I've learned that the advantages that I had in Lake Forest didn't spoil me, didn't make me any less of a man. If I've used them as a crutch, Kingsley would have destroyed me. The first time that Preston came and saw the house that I lived in, I died inside. But I didn't let it get me down. I created Hollister Mall. I lobbied for it. I sold it. I managed it. I made a success out of staggering business losses. And now going back to Lake Forest is my reward, but I want you there, not to applaud, but to be part of it. So please say you'll go. I'm not immortal, you know.
What do you mean?
Because it may be the last favor I'll ever ask of you.
No. The answer is no. Because you died on the inside a long time ago. I can't bring that back to life. Only God can.